Sorry, I had a little hiccup the last time I was reading. Kuthona, if you're watching my last video, kind of cut off abruptly, is for Zon Kuthon. But we can begin into our look into Korvosan adventurers. Korvosa is a cosmopolitan place. Wizards brush shoulders with barbarians in the city's markets. Fighters and monk work as guards and mercenaries. Rogues and paladin vie for time among the city's elite. And it's even said that a sect of renegade druids operate in some of the waterfront districts. Yet, with the diversity comes conflict. Not every person in Korvosa is as welcoming as the next. For additional information on races and classes as they function in Varisia, consult Rise of the Ruin Lords player guide. The following information supplements that and gives particular detail about how these temples of the game function in the city that serves as the Curse of the Crimson Throne's foundation. And you can look back at my video over there on the races if you would like to. And I don't know. Yeah, we'll read this section. We're going to probably read a lot of this again in the forum posts I mentioned in the last video. But if you didn't watch the last video, you're just jumping in this one for the adventure part of things. Paizo released after this player's guide a forum post meant to expand on some of the concepts and rules after the anniversary edition of Curse of the Crimson Throne was released. Races. Look at any cross-section of the city's population, and you will find that for every 10 inhabitants you see, 9 are human. Humans dominate the city in every way, comprise an overwhelming majority of the population. Yet, humans are not the only denizens of Korvosa, as any visitor soon comes to learn. Humans. Most of Korvosa's citizens are the descendants of the original settlers from Cheliax, although today only a small number of Cheliax natives. Most of Korvosa's humans are native-born, while they don't share the indigenous Varisia's swarthy complexions or traditions. They are just as much of Varisia. A local subset of traditionalists preach for a return to Chelist values, yet the standard citizen of Korvosa is more concerned with the practical matters, like family and wealth and politics. The largest ethnic minority in the city, pure-blooded Varisians, barely represent 1 human in 10, although more than half the city's population possess some Varisian blood. Many of Korvosan's traditionalists consider pure-blood Varisians little more than brightly dressed thieves and murderers, and prejudiced against the group sometimes flares into ugly lynchings or quasi-legal evictions from their homes. Despite their proximity to Korvosa and the area's importance to their folklore, a surprisingly small number of Shoanti live in the city. Part of this owes to the constant wars between the Shoanti and ethnic Chelaxians, which continue even to this day, and that color the perception and prejudice of both people. Another reason comes from the Shoanti curse world tradition. As semi-nomadic people, they have little interest in permanent settlements. Dwarves. Just because of their contacts with the city and the noble houses, dwarven merchants from Janderhof always have buyers lined up for their wares. Once their contracted buyers choose to the ware they want, dwarves sell the rest in gold markets in Midland. The remainder of their goods, particularly magical weapons and armor, they sell in the dock trade in North Point. Dwarven brokers exist in all the city's major markets, and dwarves in general are often held to be the most reputable and honorable of the city's merchants and tradesmen. Almost as rare as druids in Korvosa, elves. Most of the elven citizens of the city originally hail from the Miriana Forest. The leader among these elves, Parashel Calisreville, serves as the Mariani ambassador. He and a handful of his aides and family members have lived peacefully within the city for as long as the city has existed. A small enclave specifically built for the elves to exist on the South Shore where they often serve as scholars, sages, and advisors for those who would seek magical or natural advice. And gnomes. These small descendants of the Fae possess magical abilities far exceeding their size. This natural inclination toward magic attracts the attention of the power-hungry and reputation-minded academy. As such, most of the gnomes in Corvosa have plans to attend the magical school or are dropouts who found methods taught there distasteful. Outside of the academy, gnomes live as gnomes do, clumsily attempting to emulate their larger races and acting as menaces not to be ignored. Here we do get a quick list of deities in Golarion. If you're not familiar with them, these are the core deities that we see in the Inner Sea region. These change as you get outside of the Inner Sea region, and there are a lot of other deities, but you see Aristil, god of farming, hunting, trade, and family. Iamade, goddess of valor, rulership, justice, and honor. Torag, god of the forge, protection, and strategy. Sarenrae, god of the sun, redemption, honesty, and healing. Shaylin, goddess of beauty, art, love, and music. Desna, goddess of dreams, stars, travelers, luck. Caden Kellyan, one of my favorites, the god of freedom, wine, and bravery. Abadar, god of cities, wealth, merchants, and law. Iori, god of history, knowledge, and self-perfection. That's right, monks. Gazre, god of nature, weather, and the sea. That's right, druids. Pharasma, goddess of fate, death, prophecy, birth. Nethys, the god of magic. Borm, the god of strength, battle, weapons. Calistria, the goddess of trickery, lust, and revenge. Asmodeus, the god of tyranny, slavery, pride, and contracts. That's right, Chilexians. Zan Kuthan, the god of envy, pain, darkness, and loss. Urgathoa, the goddess of gluttony, disease, and undeath. Norgabur, the god of greed, secrets, poison, and murder. Lamashtu, goddess of madness, monsters, and nightmares. And Urovagug, the god of wrath, disaster, and destruction. An interesting thing, while we don't have Eridan on this list, Eridan, Norgabur, and Caden Kellyan all became gods by way of the test of the Starstone. None of them have revealed how they did it, but Caden did it while knocked blackout drunk, and no one knows when Norgabur even tried it or when he succeeded, but it is acknowledged that he did ascend to godhood that way. So, continuing our races, Halflings. In order to maximize its profits gained from shipborne cargo, House Larung began practice of hiring halfling sailors. The house also experimented with gnome sailors, but that ended poorly. Halflings require less than half as much space and food, so House Larung reasoned it could use that extra space for additional cargo. The other houses, with the pointed exception of House of Corona, bought these halfling-sized ships from Lorona, filled their crews with halfling sailors. Today, nearly half the ships that belong to the city's elite are sized for and crewed by halflings. Half-elves. Bored young women of the human noble families occasionally approach the Mariani Enclave, looking for an adventurous rendezvous with someone exotic and beautiful. Rather lustful himself, Perishiel welcomes these thrists and with bemused pleasure and claims each one strengthens the bond between Corvosa and the Mariani Elves. In his years as a diplomat, Perishiel has fathered countless half-elf offsprings in this way, while the male members of his entourage have collectively tributed dozens more. Half-elves in Corvosa are generally looked upon as unfortunates at best, and untrustworthy bastards at worst. Half-orcs. My favorite race to play. Half-orcs. Many Shoanti live in close proximity to the orcs of Belkzen, resulting in an almost constant state of battle between the two groups. These battles sometimes grow exceedingly personal, resulting in the occasional half-orc. A few of these half-orcs survive to adulthood, and fewer still live among the human cousins. But despite that, a handful of half-orcs make their home in Korvosa, except for the bouncer at the Posh and Turtle, a bodyguard for Eliasia Lerung, and a few other notables. Most half-orcs live in Old Korvosa. Now we jump into classes. It's the largest city in Varissia. Korvosa has a little something for everyone. Further, there seems to come a point in every Varissian's life where something can only be had in Korvosa demands a trip. As a result, all 11 standard adventuring classes have a certain level of representation in the city, some more so than others. Now, if you're familiar, you know there are really more than 11 now, but at the time. Barbarians. Most of Korvosa barbarians are visitors from Shoanti lands. Those few who choose to stay in the city do so usually because they have little other choice, having been exiled or forced to flee the Cinderlands for various reasons. Barbarians tend to find jobs as bouncers, dock workers, thugs, or mercenaries for Korvosa's shadier operations, and are generally not welcome in the more affluent sections of the city. Bards are well loved or well hated in Korvosa. It's tough to maintain a low profile as a bard here, as the locals enjoy the entertainment almost as much as they enjoy their gossip about entertainers. Several taverns, inns, playhouses, and other establishments provide stable revenues or venues for bards. And the Marble Dome is home to Korvosa's opera, although managed by a tyrant named Valen Palistus. While Korvosa's largest inn, Bard's End, always welcomes traveling entertainers. Clerics. Although the number of deities worshipped on Golarion is vast, the face of the 20 deities stand head and shoulders above the others. In general, it's generally possible to find clerics of any of the 20 faiths inside Korvosa's walls, although in some cases, particularly those of an evil faith, one might have to look long and hard. Certainly the Church of Abadar has the most strength in Korvosa, for he is not only the god of cities and merchants, but also the patron of the city's guard and protectors. The Church of Pharasma tends to Korvosa's dead and maintains an imposing cathedral in the city's necropolis. Many of the city's commoners prefer Sarenrae as a patron, and Shaylin has a strong following of the city's artist. The Church of Asmodeus brings a bit of uncertainty and fear to religion, although this church's faithful are always careful to operate just on the legal side of the law, with sacrifices provided only on a volunteer basis. Beyond these faiths, the pantheons of many represented the majority of the 20 major deities in Golarion. Only Gorum, Lamashtu, and Rovagug are not represented here, and even they have their adherents in certain parts of the city. Druids. Druids are not generally trusted or thought well of by Korvosa citizens, primarily due to the actions of a cabal of bitter and almost feral druids who frequent the waterfront of the West Dock, where they act as nuisances and scoundrels. Even other druids tend to think of this group as troublemakers, and on the few instances where the druids do need to visit the city, they keep low profiles. Although the pantheon of many doesn't officially recognize the druidic faith, it's always open to a visiting druid who seeks a quiet, friendly place to meditate. Fighters. There are ample opportunities for fighters in Korvosa, and anywhere else in the world, although none are more honorable and strategious than induction to the city's protectors, the Korvosan Guards. Active members of the Guard Barrack at Indran Military Academy. But the Guard also maintains a militia of inactive members who are expected to rally in times of need. Fighters can also find employment in countless other areas of Korvosa as private bodyguards, bouncers, or students and teachers of one of the city's many fighting schools. Monks. Few monks dwell in Korvosa. Although many have heard tell of Lundran mystics or martial arts from distant Tian Xia, the incredible feats they can accomplish with their bare hands. Although no monastic order is based in Korvosa, there is much to attract amongst interest and her libraries and churches. Paladins. Corvosa is an extremely lawful city, but one that isn't as interested as a general in the purpose of the law as much as its application. Fitting the city's government's often impartial stance on matters of the law skew the general feel toward evil. As a result, most paladins find Corvosa too stifling a place for them, and they often grow frustrated with the city's overwhelming bureaucracy and willingness to accept things like the Hell Knight Order of Nail or the Church of Asmodeus in the city. Most of Corvosa's paladins ally with the Church of Abadar or the Corvosa Guard, figuring that to be where they can do the most good. Rangers. The most prestigious place for rangers in Corvosa is without a doubt the Sable Company. Members of this elite group are hippogriff-riding rangers, can often be seen patrolling the skies above Corvosa. An entry into their ranks is difficult, yet still many who have grown in Corvosa carry in their hearts profound appreciation and awe of these flying guardians, to the extent of even rangers who are not part of the Sable Company can generally command respect from the citizenry. Rogues. Despite its fondness for the law, Corvosa is a thriving underworld both above and below its streets. Countless gangs of thieves, thugs, and troublemakers rise and fall like the tides of the city's low-rent districts. The Scarni, a loosely affiliated extended family of Varisian crime lords, hold sway of many of these gangs and play a large role in the average citizen's poor opinion of the Varisian people. Corvosa's actual thieves' guild is known as the Cerulean Society, although the members of this group focus primarily on protection brackets and smuggling. Sorcerers. Most of Corvosa's sorcerers are Varisian, folks who have manifested the spontaneous gift of magic through some quirk of the bloodline. As a general rule, most folk blur the line between sorcerer and Varisians. As a result, sorcerers are often thought of as troublemakers. Certainly the overwhelming efforts of the Academy, which maintains the use of arcane magic without study and discipline can only lead to disaster, does not help public opinion on these poorly understood arcanists. And wizards. Wizards are well respected in Corvosa, particularly if you can point to the proof of training of the Academy. One of Corvosa's greatest prides, certainly the largest and best-staffed wizardry school in Varisia. The prestige and honor of attending the Academy has recently begun to equal that of the venerable universities of Chalaex herself. Entrance into the Academy is difficult, and the courses taught here are often dangerous. But a wizard who graduates from the Academy gains more than a plaque he can hang on his wall. Other wizardry schools exist in Corvosa, notably the Animanexus College, which unlike the Academy teaches non-specialized wizards, but they do so in the Academy's shadow. So those are the classes. We will talk more about those in the forum post, as well as some of the other classes that have been added since. Here you see, we're not going to go over a lot of the equipment here. One important thing, the hero deck plays a really big role in this campaign. In my opinion, really, you can lose it if you want to as the DM and do a different method, but if you know how to use it, it's actually pretty useful. The Star Knife, one of the best weapons in the game, as well as the Earthbreaker, all of these very cool things. Never used the Sawtooth Saber or the Claw for anything, but cool little weapons. Just stuff they're adding, for flavor of this specific place. So, yeah, this is not a lot of very useful things. Barbarian Shoe's kind of cool. I'm really familiar with it. Showing to make a bitter red true by drying the leaves of the galt root. A stunted brush found across the Cinderlands increases the duration of a barbarian's rage by 1 round, as the stimulant increases their aggressiveness. Effectiveness lasts for 1 hour. So that's kind of cool, like a little buffed barbarians. I've never found myself really running out of rage as a barbarian, so whatever. I'll leave this here for a second. You can pause on it. These are just statistics of the weapons we looked at above. Not a lot of really terribly useful things coming out of there. Hide shirt, actually pretty useful, but whatever.
He doesn't sound so much like he's trying to solve problems.
Now, we are going to skip the traits. I think we might need to be near the end of this because we will look at the traits specifically on the forum post. We see Gradrian Lamb and his baby girl. These are all, I mean, they're all correct. It's just, yeah, we're going to go over it in the forum post. So, I'm going to switch over there. And we're back. So, here we find the forum post on the Pazzo.com community blog, The Curse of the Crimson Thrones player guide. So, we're going to go over a few things here. They kind of take a lot of things. We're going to skip the character races section because they basically say the same thing. But there is some useful information here. So, notice in character tips, we begin. Curse of the Crimson Throne is primarily an urban-based campaign set in the city of Corvosa in southeastern Varissia. Although there are a few lengthy portions of the adventure path that take place outside of Corvosa's walls, to a certain extent, these portions of the game are intended to force urban-themed PCs out of their comfort zone. But the reverse certainly holds true, meaning an non-urban PC might be put into their comfort zone. You can absolutely play a barbarian or druid or other nature-themed class in Curse of the Crimson Throne, but you should come up with an in-character reason to explain your non-urban character being in Corvosa at the start of the campaign, as well as why you want to stay in Corvosa as things inevitably start to go bad for the city. Building strong links to other player characters is a great solution. Your druid or barbarian might normally just abandon the city, but not when a close friend or relative or other ally who lives in the city is in danger. So, looking at some character classes. Curse of the Crimson Throne is an urban-themed campaign setting, and now I will say this is normally hidden, so this is a kind of a spoiler alert. I'm not sure what's exactly in there. I've not read over it yet. So if you're worried you're going to get some spoilers, feel free to skip this. Probably take like 5 minutes or so. Curse of the Crimson Throne, as an urban-themed campaign, presents numerous opportunities for intrigue-based characters to shine. Yet there remain plenty of old-fashioned dungeon crawls and dangerous combats awaiting as well. As with all campaigns, having a balanced party with regards to combat prowess, magical ability, and intrigue skills will go a long way towards success. The Alchemist, the Arcanist, the Magus, Sorcerer, Summoner, Witch, and Wizard. Corvosa is welcoming to those who specialize in arcane magic, and there are numerous opportunities for arcane spellcasters to flourish in the city. Being an adventurer is certainly one option for posterity. One important thing to keep in mind, though, is that Corvosa's most well-known school for arcane spellcasters, the Academy, does not play a significant role in the Curse of the Crimson Throne. If you wish for your character to be associated with the Academy, speak to your game master or build a character so those links are relatively minor. All the standard families are good choices in Corvosa. There are long-standing feuds in the city between imps who have escaped servitude to Academy students and teachers, and pseudo-dragon-like creatures called house drakes. Both these are classic choices for improved familiars. Spellcasting must be 7th level, and chaotic good to gain a house drake as a familiar. The full 60 tiny dragons appear in the Curse of the Crimson Throne. Other commonly seen improved familiars in Corvosa are dire rats, Lorakins, Nasois, and pseudo-dragons. But anything approved by your GM would serve. Again, remember though, it did mention in the Player's Guide, sorcerers may not be viewed as well as some other classes. The Barbarian, the Blood Rager, the Druid, the Hunter, the Shaman, and the Skald. These classes are not normally associated with urban regions, but as long as you have a reason for your character to live in or be extended on an extended visit to Corvosa, the campaign will accommodate such characters, and in fact, when the plot moves beyond the city walls, such characters may be particularly helpful. A character associated with one of the Shoanti Quals, or Quos, might provide some additional advantages or opportunities as the campaign progresses, particularly if the PC hails from one of the Quals that dwells in the Cinderlands, the Laroon Qua, the Sklar Qua, or the Skoan Qua. Although If your player character is a member of such tribe, don't assume you'll automatically be welcomed back to your tribe's arms after spending a significant amount of time in Corvosa. Classes that take animal companions should be able to function normally in Corvosa. After all, it's a city where defenders mounted on hippogriffs exist. The sight of someone with an exotic animal companion is unlikely to raise many eyebrows, provided the animal companion is well behaved. Nonetheless, there are certain types of animal companion more commonly encountered in Varissia, which include alligators, badgers, bears, birds, boars, dogs, horses, ponies, small cats, mostly fire-pelt cougars, wolverines, and wolves. Bards, investigators, rogues, slayers, and swashbucklers. These intrigue-focused characters make excellent choices for an urban campaign like Curse of the Crimson Throne. Corvosa has a wide range of organizations and groups that characters like this can belong to. The campaign works best for freelancers, intrigue-based characters who have yet to select a group to be associated with, be they underground guilds or high society. As Curse of the Crimson Throne campaign progresses, you'll encounter several groups with which your intrigue-themed character might ally with or oppose. And coming to these groups without having a strong affiliation at the outset makes for a more rewarding play experience. Of course, there's one group your intrigue-focused characters should stop quite loyal to, and that's of the player character party. If you want to associate with a particular group, speak to your GM before the game begins. Note that any of these intrigue-focused characters could benefit from specific information provided below for the vigilante characters. And jumping back up here just real quick, I want to make known, a majority of these things have an option for an urban counterpart. So any of these characters can even play as an urban character. Brawlers, cavaliers, fighters, and monks. As with intrigue-focused characters, there are numerous options for monster classes to flourish in Corvosa. The most appropriate group to ally in this campaign will be the Corvosan Guard, which serves as the city's police force and plays a significant role in the campaign. Other groups like the Hell Knight Order of Nail or the Sable Company have specific roles to play in the Crimson Throne that make them poor choices for PCs. If you wish to associate with one of these two groups, speak with your GM before the game. Clerics, Inquisitors, Oracles, and War Priest. All four of these divine spellcasting class are well known and welcome to Corvosa, provided they don't use their religious beliefs or zeals to cause trouble. Consult the religious section below for further details. Now we come to the occult classes. Kineticist, medium, mesmerist, occultist, psychic, and spiritualist. There are a few opportunities for psychic classes to particularly shine throughout the Curse of the Crimson Throne adventure path. Be they links to the deep themes of spiritualism associated with the hero, or explorations of particularly notorious haunted sites. Making sure your GM is familiar with and comfortable with the options from Pathfinder RPG Occult Adventures before choosing one of these classes for your character. Sorry, took a drink there. Ranger. If you choose to play a ranger, make sure to consult the information above for other nature-themed classes, including advice on animal companions. Note also that while Corvosa has a ranger-themed organization that operates within its wall, that group is not a great choice to associate with as a player character. If you wish to associate with the player Sable Company, clear it with your GM before play. The best option for favorite enemy are animal, humanoid human, undead, and vermin. These choices remain strong in the later parts of the campaign, but outsider evil and outsider native grow stronger as an option. Most other favorite enemy choices will be represented now and then in the campaign, but not nearly as often. The best favorite terrain choices are in descending order of importance: urban, underground, desert, swamp, and plains. The gunslinger, ninja, and samurai. These three classes are all but unknown in Corvosa. While samurai and gunslinger can fit well with the other martial-focused classes, the ninja fits in well with the intrigue-focused classes. There are no specific themes in Corvosa tailored for these exotic class choices. The vigilante. Corvosa's current political climate is ripe for the attention of a vigilante. In fact, the city already has one notorious legend in this category, Blackjack, A figure at once beloved and reviled, the masked hero who fought for Corvosa's downtrodden for many decades. Rumors about his or her identity, race, and gender are across the board, and opinions as to whether Blackjack is one person or a role held by several over the course of the city's growth. Whatever the truth, Blackjack has been lying low of late, perhaps retired, or perhaps dead, or perhaps, as the downtrodden hope, merely waiting for the right time to burst back onto the scene. Of course, this means the city potentially is ready for a new vigilante to look up to or fight against. Your vigilante could even be interested in taking on the role of Blackjack, although so if you do so, speak to your GM about first to determine what that might look like. Prestige classes. Hero plays a significant role in the Curse of the Crimson Throne, and as such, the Hero or Prestige class from the Pathfinder campaign setting, the Inner Seas World Guide, makes a particularly interesting choice for anyone who can qualify it for it. Certain prestige classes are associated with key organizations in Glorian, and some of these organizations have key roles to play in the Curse of the Crimson Throne. As such, these prestige classes are inappropriate for use in this campaign, but in order to avoid spoiling too much, those classes are not called out here. If you wish to build your character toward a specific prestige class, make sure you let your GM know as soon as possible, so that he or she can either approve or deny your choice based on whether it makes sense to take levels in that class for the Curse of the Crimson Throne. Languages. Common tongue is the most appropriate language, but two others that you will see a lot of is Choanti and Varisian. Beyond these three choices, you can see Orc, Thessalonian, and Vrujrani. Will have some sporadic use here and there. You can expect to encounter a typically wide range of creatures in the lengthy campaign, with more common languages such as Dwarven, Elven, or Draconic being likely used, more than obscure ones like Aslanti, Cyclops, or Orvian, which I'm not even really familiar with, which may not have any use at all. It might be the Earth language, I don't know. We've talked plenty about religion, we don't need to do that. The campaign traits. Corvosa, like any city, has its share of undesirables. Cut purses, thugs, thieves, burglars, assassins, and lowlifes of every sort, which can be found in the waterfront slums, creeping in the sewers, or hiding in the tangled rooftop scape known as the shingles. The Corvosan Guard does what it can to keep the city's criminals from causing too much harm. The cold reality is that crooks will always outnumber the law. That means some crimes go unpunished, and some criminals see great success. The worst of these, perhaps, are the city's crime lords. Dozens of them operate in Corvosa today, from a scheming leader of the Cerulean society all the way down to Varisian Scarny thugs, who preside over a gang of a half-dozen friends and cousins. These minor crime lords are often, ironically, the ones who do the most damage to Corvosa's law-abiding citizens, as larger organizations have little need to bother commoners. One such undesirable is Gadrian Lamb, a despicable wretch who missed his chance at being somebody big in Corvosa's murky underworld. Well past his prime, the decrepit thief abducts orphans and forces them to support his parasitic lifestyle with petty crime. Many members of Corvosa's lower class have had dealings with Lamb, and even a few of the city's middle class and nobility have had their lives complicated by this foul old man. Yet no matter what he does, he always seems to slip away from the guards and avoid answering for his crimes. Gadrian Lamb's luck is about to change, though, for among those actions of his recently, among those his actions have recently touched are men and women destined to become some of Corvosa's greatest heroes, your player characters. Before your Curse of the Crimson Throne campaign begins, look through the following campaign traits and select one that works well for your character. These traits detail how your PCs have been wronged by Gadrian Lamb, and set up the initial events of the adventure path, events that may well allow for you and your fellow PCs to see Gadrian Lamb answers for his terrible crimes, be that in the court of law or at the edge of a vengeful blade. The campaign traits all tie Gadrian to a PC, and represent historical snippets that explain how this detestable crime lord has affected each player character. Each trait is categorized into one of 6 unique themes, with 2 separate choices for each campaign trait. In addition to selecting one of these campaign traits, each player should select an additional campaign trait. an additional character trait. Sorry. See Pathfinder RPG Advanced Player's Guide for more rules on character traits. We don't need to go over that. Betrayed. You were hardly a model citizen as a child or a young adult. Your reasons for turning to a life of crime may be varied, but what matters is that you eventually fell in with a certainly well-connected and notorious crime lord named Gadrian Lamb. His reputation as a snake and a treacherous scoundrel was known to you, but for reasons of your own, you chose not to turn him down when he offered you the chance to work for him. You may have assumed that you were an exception, or that you'd be able to handle him, perhaps even planned to betray him. As it worked out, though, Gadrian got the upper hand and took you down first. You may have served time in jail, may have been beaten by his thugs and left for dead, or simply have had your profits stolen out from under you. Whatever the cause, Gadrian wronged you, and you're eager for the chance to get revenge. Choose one of the two following traits. Hungry for revenge. You've never forgiven Gadrian for his betrayal, and have vowed to make him pay for what he did, whether that's seeing him rot in jail or a shallowy grave. You hope to taste vengeance someday, and whenever you deal damage with a melee creature on a creature that's flat-footed, damage with a melee weapon on a creature that's flat-footed, you get a +1 trait bonus on the damage roll. Pretty friggin' good. Reformed criminal. You've given up the life of crime and managed to talk your way out of the repercussions such as jail time or fines. You've told yourself that you would rather leave your past behind. Yet the concept of seeing Gadrian Lamb pay for his crime still appeals to you. You get a +1 bonus on diplomacy checks, and diplomacy is a class skill for you. Again, amazing. Drug addict. Someone you know has become addicted to Shiver, a drug distilled from the venom of tropical arachnids known as dream spiders. The drug induces sleep filled with vivid dreams, during which the user's body shakes and shivers, giving the substance its street name. You've always thought the shivers as a problem for the lower class, but then someone you know overdosed on the stuff. If you've done a bit of investigating and learned the villain who got your friend addicted in the first place was a crime lord named Gadrian Lamb, of course. Fortunately, the guards seem to be focused on bigger dealers. They don't have the time to devote many resources to what they call a bit player and a beggar's problem. It would seem if Gadrian's operation is to be stopped, it falls to you. You can choose one of the two following benefits. Addicted friend. The addict is a friend or lover who might or might not have survived the overdose. Your research into the drug scene and local politics has given you a respectable education in street knowledge. You gain a +1 bonus on knowledge local checks. Knowledge local is a class skill for you. In an urban setting, that's actually really good. Personal addiction. You were the addict. You blame Gadrian for your brush with death and hate how his drugs are causing similar problems among other youth. Fortunately, your body recovers quickly from toxins. You gain a +1 trait bonus on fortitude saving throws. It's not as good as some of the others. I mean, a bonus of fortitude saving throws as a trait bonus is always, it's not bad. But some of the others can be a lot more useful, especially when there are a lot of ways to get trait bonuses on fortitude saves. Framed. Someone you know or love was accused of murder. A supposed eyewitness account from a local fisherman seemed to be enough to seal the case. When the accused had enough alibis that sentencing wasn't immediate, someone confronted the fisherman and discovered he was intimidated by providing a false witness, and forced into planting the murder weapon by the actual murderer, a local crime lord named Gadrian Lamb, whose thugs killed the fisherman before they could recant his testimony. Although this removed the key witness and resulted in the accused being set free, the stigma was enough to badly damage the accused's reputation. If you can find Gadrian Lamb, you're sure you can find enough evidence that ties him to the murder and can clear the accused's name. Choose one of the following benefits. You were the one accused of murder. Although you were eventually freed when a friend confronted the fisherman and got the truth, the damage had been done. You were forced to leave your school or church, and as a result were forced to self-train and promise yourself you would become better at your chosen profession despite the spurning of your peers. You get a +1 trait bonus on spellcraft checks, and spellcraft is this class skill for you. Yeah, and that was not so great. I mean, there's a lot of cool things you can do with spellcraft, I don't value it that highly. The person was a family member, perhaps a father or a sister. You managed to trick the fisherman into revealing the truth with your skilled tongue. You gain a plus 1 trait bonus on bluff checks, and it's a class skill for you. I consider that one pretty good. Not as good as some of the other ones we read, but it's not bad at all. Love lost. Someone you loved was knifed to death in a dark alley one night. You were called to the scene by the Corvosan guard to identify the body, and as rough as that was for you, you noticed a ring was missing from your loved one's finger. Whoever murdered your loved one stole that ring. You're convinced of it. You've done some investigating on your own and recently found the ring for sale in a local merchant shop. To your great frustration, you can't afford to buy it for the 500 GP that they're selling it for, but the merchant did tell you from where he purchased it. A man named Gadrian Lamb. It seems likely that the criminal killed your loved one, or at the very least, he knows who did. The only problem is finding him. Choose one of the two following benefits. All alone. The murder victim was a lover. With your lover's death, part of you died as well, leaving you haunted, grim, and prone to dark musings. Get a plus 1 bonus on intimidate checks, and intimidate's a class skill for you. Really good if you plan on going like a half-orc intimidate build. Really, really good. Orphaned. The murder victim was your only surviving parent. You had to work hard to make end meets for yourself and any siblings, and often had to scavenge for food. Get a plus 1 bonus on survival checks, and survival is a class skill for you. Considering this is an urban campaign, I don't really consider that very good at all. Kind of subpar, actually. Maybe whenever you go into the wild later, but at that point, you're already going to have a pretty good bonus if you just stick points into it. So, I mean, Missing child. You suspect that the child you know has been abducted by Gadrian Lamb. Whatever the relationship, you've heard rumors about Lamb's lambs, and of how the old man uses children as pickpockets and agents for his crimes. You've even heard rumor that the child you're looking for has been spotted in the marketplace in the company of known cut purses and pickpockets. Although the Corvosan guard has been understanding of your plight, it has either had its handful with more important matters these days, it seems, or has not yet been able to learn anything more about Gadrian. No one else is interested in bringing Gadrian Lamb down and rescuing his victim. The task falls to you. Yet where could the scoundrel be hiding? You choose one of the two following benefits. Missing sibling. Missing child is a brother or sister. Although everyone else has given up hope, you believe your sibling still lives. Your constant search for the missing has developed a great skill in rumor mongering and finding out information from others. Get a plus 1 trait bonus on motive checks, and it's a class skill for you. If you don't have sense motive as a class skill already, that's pretty good. Missing child is your own son or daughter. A niece or nephew or a child you were charged with protecting. The child was abducted during a trip to the market or on another daily event, and your stubbornness on long hours spent searching for rumors grant you a plus 1 trait bonus on will saves. That's actually really good, much better than fortitude saves. Because that's kind of stuff to like save or lose your character. Unhappy childhood. You spent a period of time as one of Gadrian's lambs, enslaved orphans, doing all manners of dirty work for him. Maybe you were adopted from your parents' home during a trip to the market. Perhaps an irresponsible matron who ruled your orphanage traded you to him in return for a desperately needed financial loan. Or perhaps you, like most of Gadrian's slaves, were merely a child of the street who succumbed to the promises of regular meals and a roof in return for what he said would be a little light work. Whatever the case, you spent several years of your life as one of Lamb's lambs. Before escaping, you nursed a grudge against the old man ever since. The first option here is religious. One day while on the job for Gadrian, you found a holy symbol of the god you worship, and intrigued by it, you snuck off to attend services. When Gadrian found out, he beat you within an inch of your life and broke your holy symbol. Your faith let you block out the pain. You escaped his control and took shelter in the church, where you spent the rest of your youth. You get a plus 2 trait bonus on concentration checks and constitution checks to stabilize at negative hit points. I mean, that could be pretty good. I still think some of the other ones are better, but that could be pretty good. And tortured. You made one too many errors. Gadrian tortured you and left you for dead in a garbage heap. Your scars and memories have motivated you to hone your reaction speed and make you rather jumpy. Plus 1 trait bonus on reflex saves to, fill out the trifecta on the fort, the will, and the reflex. Still better than fort, but worse than will save in my opinion. Usually if you're failing if you're looking for a reflex save, it's usually damage, and often you can survive damage. What you can't survive is a dominate person. So, just my opinion. But hopefully, this will help you if you're going to be looking at the Curse of the Crimson Throne as a campaign you're looking to play. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'd love to have some discussion about that. So, yeah. Again, if you enjoyed what I've been doing, leave me comments on maybe what adventure path you would like me to look through next for its player's guide, or maybe a commentary on them, or what other kind of content you want to see. And yeah, please leave a like or subscribe if you think I'm doing a good job. Thanks, and have a great day.